Welcome to the Glue Pod.
Hosted by Glueckauf.
Can we check in?
You kidding me right now?
Killing your phone.
Featuring musicians, boxers, and some of the shit.
Community is what's going on. Dude, you asking me?
Let's start the show.
Boom. Everybody, welcome back to the Glue Pod. Real excited to have my guy, Dave Chiverton, here with me. The great Dave Chiverton, one of the top guys in the area, internationally renowned drummer, top cat out of Miami. And if you've been playing music in Miami, you've seen Dave, you've heard about him, and just honored to have you on here, man. Glad to get to pick your brain.
So when does that guy get here? Where is he?
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man. Listen, it's always an honor. First of all, man, you and I have been friends for so many years. So it's an honor to be a part of something great that you're doing.
Thank you, man.
Especially during this crazy time, man. I'm glad I could be here.
Yeah, man. It was something. I was listening to podcasts all the time. I almost feel like I'm shifting back into my usual music listening, which I should be doing more. But I've been I became a podcast junkie. At some point, I was like, if I'm going to spend all these hours listening to these things, why don't I start doing it myself?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing about where we are. It literally, in terms of where the world is right now, it literally made all of us kind of stop and get back to the things that we've been wanting to do. And the years have just kind of flown by. Like, all right, I need to practice. I'll get to it. I need to sit down and call a friend. I'll get to it. Just things like that I think, as many unfortunate things that have happened, there are some great things that have come out of it too. I've been practicing again, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I've been in the shed, like really digging in and checking out stuff that I haven't really had a chance to do in years.
What stuff are you shedding right now? What are you
Right
into?
now, really kind of getting back into like touch. I'm in my garage and sometimes I play at certain times of the day where I don't want to disturb my wife or anybody like that. I can play, but I kind of make it a specific, like, almost like exercise to really work on my touch, where I'm hitting the drums, how I'm hitting them to get, good sounds out of the drums. So a lot of the fundamental things that I've actually been missing. I didn't realize how much I'm like, man, it feels good to just sit and hash out things versus you're on a gig, you got to figure it out, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's been good to just sit down and like work out stuff. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you were saying like the good and the bad of this whole pandemic and how it's re-inspired you to get in the shed and all this stuff. And it's kind of funny because it makes me think it's like, we're lucky to be musicians. Like, it makes you realize to be a creative person, have these outlets. Like when something like this happens in the world and you're stuck at home, whatever, it's like we have this place we can go to.
Right.
And it's like, I feel like for so many people, I mean, I can't imagine if without having an outlet, how much harder it would be. Like for us, it's a natural state. We're like, okay, we're going to get in a shed, to be locked in a room by ourselves is like what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, honestly, especially when the pandemic first kind of happened, there were those first 3 months where we were like, wait, is this real?
Right.
Are we really not going to be able to do anything?
Right,
So
right.
when kind of, everybody kind of had that epiphany, like, hey, this is real. We're not going to be able to do anything for the next year. I think it started to shift everyone's mind, at least the people I've come in contact with. And it's cool, man. Some people sit and, twiddle their thumbs and like, all right, I guess I'll just wait it out. And then some people get busy and like,
Yeah.
for me, that's exactly what happened to me. Where I'm like, all right, let me get even heavier into recording.
Yeah.
Like I said, practicing again,
Yeah.
even writing, things like that I've been meaning to do for like the last 4 or 5 years, but I've been touring and got married,
Yeah,
everything
man.
like that, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, good.
Well, I was gonna say, do you think it's um now that everything's coming back? Maybe fear isn't the right word, but do you wonder? Okay, can I maintain these things? Because it's like you could easily fall back into that and then be like, man, I want to make time for writing again. I want to make time for shedding again. It's like, how do we find, like, all of us, like, the ability to kind of like keep ourselves in check instead of being like, okay, I'm gonna go gig, run around. It's like, and then have no time for that again. You know?
I think you have to have that balance of discipline and saying to yourself, what goals you want to accomplish, and then tackling them accordingly. But at the same time, I was just telling a friend of mine, a student of mine yesterday in class. It's like you have to have that balance between I'm going to be militant about what I want to accomplish and how I'm going to accomplish it, but you have to also allow yourself some wiggle room too for things to happen organically. You can't be so caught up in, I'm going to nail this and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the quickest way to fail, you know. And
Yeah.
I always say, well, I actually heard it maybe like a couple weeks ago. 1% every day. If you can improve 1% each day from the previous day, like you're progressing. Some people want to go 110% every day.
Right.
Sometimes it's not realistic,
Yeah.
and if you're that type of person, that's great. But at the same time, realistically, it's like, hey, just do something a little bit better than you did it yesterday, and just watch the progression happen.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, like, yeah, I think you it's easy to kind of fall back into that place again. But now that we've had that awakening a little
Yeah.
bit, I think you know, everybody will try and find that balance some kind
Yeah.
of way.
Yeah, yeah, I feel you, and it's funny because I was like speaking to what you were saying about the 1% and every day, and it's like, yo, it doesn't have to be 7 hours of practice. It could be
No,
30 minutes.
it's not
It's,
realistic, bro.
it's not realistic, and
No.
and I feel like there's so many people. There's drummers now I follow that are like kind of breaking that down for people, and these are like these guys with all this shit together. So of course it's good that they're getting that mess out. It's like, yeah, I'm playing all this stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm sitting here 8 hours
Yeah.
like.
And then you gotta really realize where you are in your life too. If those guys have 8
100%.
hours to just blow on playing drums, cool. Like I just said, I just got married, so
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I gotta make sure my wife doesn't have anything for me to do, or what I mean, things like that. Where
Life.
it's life, exactly. I was just gonna say, yeah, life happens, and all you can do is pray for the time to really continue to cultivate your gift. But just the whole militant, I'm gonna sit in the shed for 8 hours. Like, man, my wife look at me like, what? Yo, you've
No.
been in there like 2 hours too long. Like, let's
Time.
go.
Jeez. Okay,
Yeah. So,
I mean, you gotta have. Uh, it's funny because people are like, I always want to like teach do more private lessons. It's just so hard to find kids who just have a drum set in there. Like, you gotta have the parent that allows their kid to put the drum set in the room and bang away for 8. Like, I really appreciate my mom even more now looking back at that time. Like, oh my god, like it just you how do, as drummers, I mean, unless if your kit is at home and that's how you got to learn in the beginning, especially in the beginning when you do need to put in 4 or 5 hours just to like line things up, and
yeah.
like it's so hard to like that. This instrument has so much buy-in, so
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely has. It takes investment. That just like anything though, man. If you're an
Yeah.
athlete, you gotta invest your time into your craft.
100%.
But yeah, like for me, I beat up all of my furniture, my mom's furniture when I was a kid, with like hangers and spoons and straws and things like that, until they eventually got me a kit, and then they wanted me to go back to just playing
What age
playing the
was that,
furniture.
man?
Oh
When
man,
were you start banging on things? 5,
uh,
6,
no, bro, like maybe
3?
2.
Oh man.
Yeah, like I got the bug pretty early in terms of really like playing, and my mother was a part of a gospel group here in Miami called the Miracle Lights, and um, they allowed me to start playing with them. Think I was 4 years old. So like leading up to that point, so like the previous 2 years, I was just like beating up everything
That's
until
incredible, man.
yeah, man, until I really got serious. And my godfather, Lionel Nelson, who he really started to kind of. He said, "Oh, okay, you serious? Let's go." You
Yeah.
know, and really, got me in the pocket and all that stuff.
How-
Early. So
How did that work? Like playing with a gospel group at 4. What are you playing? What the kit?
the
They got you.
essentials, yeah. Just I mean, kick, snare, hat is really the meat and potatoes of that whole thing. Just make it feel good. That's what I'm saying. I learned pocket really early.
Yeah.
Very early. Like I didn't know anything about chops and all that stuff until I got older and watching different people play. But my godfather was very instrumental in like, showing me the essence of what my job is as a drummer. It's like great time, make things feel good. So yeah, that was it, man. Kick, snare, hat. Maybe he'd let me have a rack tom and a floor tom, but I barely touched it.
and were you big enough to reach the pedals, or they have a baby
No,
kit for you?
that was the funny part. I used to carry my own drum set everywhere.
That's
Like
amazing.
they had like a little kit for me that I used to take like to every show that we had, which was cool. I remember I had this weird like trunk suitcase type of thing that I had my hardware and drums in, and every time we had a performance, you see everybody pulling all my stuff in.
That's wow, dude.
It was bigger than me. The trunk I had was like bigger than me, so those are like great memories, man.
And when you were at that time, like when you're going around, were you doing like the travel kind of things where you go to other churches and I'm sure there were probably drummers there 15 years older than you, 10 years older than you, being like, what is this about?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it was cool. Everybody were, according to how they told me, everybody was amazed when I would get on and play, with the group. And not just like, oh, he's a little kid playing, but like locked in with the band. And, of course you have your older guys that kind of try you here and there. Oh, man, you don't know what you're doing, man. Stuff like that. But I was oblivious to that stuff when I was a kid. I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
So.
That's incredible. I mean, I remember one time back in the day when you came over to my mom's old place and we did a lesson, and you played me a recording, and I think you said at the time you were 12, but I don't know if that was your first official recording session or not. It was a gospel record. Maybe it was Cooper? Yeah,
it was the Miami Music Workshop Choir, which Pastor Cooper was the producer of. And it was weird. Like I was going to the church, and my aunt was going to the church, and I was kind of like this kid that I always studied what was going on. Like although I wasn't playing or anything like that, I would sit and learn the music in all the rehearsals. So finally one day, I think the drummer didn't come to rehearsal, and he was like, "All right, come on, man, just get on the key time." But I was, I ended up playing the songs. He was like, "Man, you know the whole show?" I was like, "Yeah," and I was like around 11 then. But when I turned 12, they were doing that project, and he was like, "Yo, man, I want you to play. You gonna play a song or two?" I was like, "Nah, man." He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna play a song or two." So that was like my first introduction into like recording, and it was a whole beast, man. It's still kind of like a blur how
That's
it all came together.
Man.
Yeah, man. So of course everybody, I couldn't reach the cymbals and everything, but
just to have that ability with time and feel at 12, it's incredible, man.
It's a real blessing, man, and I don't take it for granted too. Because nowadays we see like these kid phenomenons like every day.
Right.
But of course back then it was something like super, super special to see. Like I said, not to just, oh, look at them play, but just somebody that's like, really serious about it. And they have, like, I would say that I developed a real, musical IQ at a very young age. But I credit that to, like I said, my godfather, Lionel Nelson, who he taught me, what I need to be listening for, the importance of why I don't need to be playing so much stuff and all that kind of stuff, So him teaching me a lot of that stuff very early prepared me for like a session like that where, it's 1,000 people watching the show and it's being recorded, but then I can get on and just play, you know. So, I look back at that stuff sometimes. I'm just like, wow, it's amazing.
it makes me think too. Like, there's a beauty too. Like when you're young, and the pressure doesn't mean what it's gonna mean when you're 18, or
Yeah.
like emotionally, psychologically. So you get in at a time where you don't have to have like kind of shitty experiences where you're getting in your head, or that like you're 12. It's pure. Like you're just like, this is, I
Just having
love
fun.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that helped you as you got older, when things got a little more serious, and obviously you're developing that you didn't, or did, when you got, was there a moment when you got older you're like, whoa, this is like real right now, like, and
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
There are moments I had to pull from those experiences, where it could be, hey, we're about to play live on television in front of millions of people, or I'm about to play a tour in front of 30,000 people, or I'm about to play in a small jazz club for 10 people and they're right in front of us. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You pull from those moments the pure aspect of what you're doing, and I try my hardest never to forget to have fun, which is tough, man, because when you're in those pressure situations where you got to execute, it's very easy to just be like, oh, I just want to nail it. Versus when you were a kid, I always go back to before I got to college. There was a way that I approached drums and music before I got to college that was so like innocent, and
yeah,
like it was just pure talent,
yeah,
and I would listen to recordings of myself before, college. I'm like, man, the stuff I was able to just play off the cuff was just crazy, humbly speaking, you know what I mean? But then I got into college and almost like the blinders got pulled off off of my face, and I was just like, okay, I got to learn how to play drums all over again. You know what I mean? Just because now you're dealing with touch.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I was gonna say, is that because at that time it's like that was your introduction to jazz? Because the thing, music school, and it's this like weird like thing where it's both amazing, but it also has this other side where it's like you gotta like, okay, I'm in school, like there's a grade that has to be given, and there's a qualification of things, like better or worse or good or bad, and it's necessary to give someone a grade. It's necessary to give someone, like, you need to work on this specific thing, but at the same time, you don't want to lose that what you had when you're younger, where it's open. It's like it's such a hard line. Now you're teaching at a university, so I'm sure you're keenly aware of, like, how do I teach people but also let them feel free and feel like their passion can come through while also instructing. And did you find like you're like, well, let me start with this first, is when you got to music school, was it the actual genre of playing jazz that you were new to that kind of brought on these new feelings, or was it just being in school in general?
Well, both. Mainly because, I mean, I'll just be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of school. It's not that I couldn't do the work and all of that stuff. It's just, it was annoying to me. I wish I could just be playing music. You know what I mean? So that aspect of it, definitely the grading, and, especially when I got into jazz. Jazz is a beast, man, and it really exposes so much about a person's playing that can be really ugly, when you really pay attention to it. So me going from this like off the cuff type of player from gospel, I had to really start to refine my approach to everything. It changed my outlook on music in general. So in essence, it had to break me to remold my playing. So that was a major thing, man. So going to school, the grading, and all that stuff. And then you don't want, I think for me too, I kind of had this thing about my playing that I started to not like. Most guys were, that's when gospel chops, was super popular at the time. And at the time, like, I was just like, I don't want cats to think of my playing as gospel chops. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't want it to. There was nothing wrong with it. I didn't realize at the time. But at the same time, I was just like, I don't want to be categorized as, that's the gospel drummer over there. So I worked extra hard to get rid of that accent, in a sense. That meant I had to work on my touch. That meant I had to work on
Yeah.
my approach, vocabulary. I had to get all of these things that, like I said, if I was, very successful in one main genre, which was gospel, I knew all the vocabulary and that stuff, I listened to all the records and all that stuff, but when I got into jazz, it's a beast because you could play Latin music, you could play, jazz just covers so many different things, so it exposed a lot, man. It was honestly, it was a trying time for me because it really broke me. It really broke me, and I was very discouraged for like 3-4 years. I just felt like I sounded terrible, and I couldn't listen to old recordings of myself at all because I hated it. I was just like, oh man, gospel chops.
Was was your first introduction to jazz, or did you play
I,
any straight ahead
I
before?
played jazz in high school, but it was a little
Right.
bit more, and we did some major things, man. We did IJE and Midwest and all that stuff. Shout out to Christopher Dorsey, my band director at Miami Northwestern. We did a lot of great things, but I don't think I got into it heavy until I got to college because it's college, man. These are some cats playing now,
Right.
and these are dudes that have been in jazz since they've been kids or teenagers, and I'm just like gospel drummer coming in. I know I can play,
Right.
but
Right.
it wasn't about just your skill set. It was about your, like I said, your musical IQ, do's and don'ts, and all these different things that came into play. So, yeah, it was a tough time.
Well, and I guess because I had a long tangent initial question just to follow up on the second part of it being taking those experiences you had in music school, and now that you're teaching at one, do you feel like it's you have a way like in your head you remember that time, and when you got a kid in front of you, it's like who's maybe in like that mode of like this is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because I know that feeling like crazy, and it's like to have you have the aura and the patience as naturally built in you to be able to handle that, but also even though you could play the shit out of the drums at 18, you felt overwhelmed. So I'm sure expressing that can you touch on that a little, maybe how you
That's actually been a major thing that I've been kind of digging into in lessons, private and at school, because you have these guys or these people that come in that are so overwhelmed with classes and do's and don'ts. Like I said, all right, cool, I need to make sure I come down for the soloists, and just this real like student mindset when it pertains to music, that there would be moments, man, where I had to like almost talk them off the ledge. Like, hey, man, it's music. Although you're in school and you're here to get a degree, just keep in mind that it's music. It's supposed to be fun. So do the work and make sure that you're doing what you need to do to improve. I said, but at the same time, man, make sure you're having fun. Make sure you understand that, it will get better. And a more positive energy that you put into the music, that's what you'll get from it. When you go in, and you know it from being at school, man, it can get really dark.
Yeah.
With teachers and, hey, you sound like this and you'll never be that. And blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Nah, man. Nah, that doesn't have to be the approach to what we call music. No, you can absolutely have a positive mindset. Now, like I said, there's no shortcut for hard work. You got to do the work, but still find that balance to say, okay, cool. That's why I said, philosophy is like 1% each day. It's realistic. It's like, all right, cool. I need to practice at this tempo today. I'm still a little sloppy. Let me go at it again tomorrow. Oh, it feels better today. All right, let me increase it 5. Things like that you will look back after a month and say, okay, I am improving, or things are getting better. Versus, all right, cool, I got to be able to play this Max Roach solo to perfection in the next 2 days. It's like, come on, man.
Setting yourself up for failure there.
Yeah, and I don't want to act like I'm just, like belittling what we've been taught in school, but I felt like that was kind of sometimes the downside to school in a sense. It was just so militant that some guys left school and didn't play anymore. It was just like, yo, it's too much work.
No, it's funny, man, because like, the one guy at UM who really had that mindset of what you're talking about, like reminding people that it's supposed to be fun, was Steve. And that's why
Yeah,
he's
he's
always
great.
been, I feel like, so important to all these drummers who leave there,
Yeah,
because he's just, it's the emotional side, and which is deeper really, because it honestly, it's like you say, man, it's like if you're not playing free and like with love and fun, you're just scared, you're just playing tight, you're second guessing yourself.
yeah,
There's all this negativity. It has to be positive, or else it's like, what's the point? But when it's because, when I came to UM, it was literally just on like the guys that I was gonna like show these guys how hard I was gonna work to get better, because I was this drum corps kid who decided like, oh shit, I want to play, and I had some drum set experience. But I mean, long story short, it was just like Steve gave me an opportunity, because he was like, I see you're hungry, I see you have potential. But I was so behind, like so green, so behind, those 4 years were like a freaking tornado, man, in my life.
yeah,
Like necessary,
yeah.
like you're saying. Like, you gotta be. I love how you said broken and remolded. It's like shit. At the end of the day, it's like like just like an analogy with athletes. It's like, there's a lot of like, this is what is required. So it's not gonna be comfortable. It can't be comfortable all the time. But at the same time, it is good to have a voice there in the midst when you're in there. Be like, yo, relax. It's music. Like, it's a
Exactly.
recital. But when you're there, it doesn't feel that way. When you're the student, when you're like, oh, it's so hard to see outside of that. It's like you're
The light,
underwater and there's
you don't
light
see
shining
light.
above the ocean,
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And then
no,
sometimes
it's
you gotta
dark, and
be that
it can be
voice.
very,
It's the truth, bro. Like you really get into this, like kind of like you just said, man. You get tunnel vision, and it's just like instead of it's almost like you have to, like I said, you got to have that balance. For me, I wish someone would have told me that. In actuality, someone did say that to me, and it was so like it was something so small, but something so profound. You know who Era Rakapov is? I think you know who. Anyway, he's one of the teachers at UM, but
that name sounds so familiar.
he was teaching at FIU as well. But one thing he said to me, he's like, "Yeah, man, I hear you working. I hear you," and he's super like tough on us, but he's a great teacher. Um, no fluff at all. He'll tell you if you're getting better. He'll tell you whatever. But he told me, he said, "Yeah, man, I hear you working hard and getting better. That's cool, man." He said, "But make sure to go to the movies or something, and go have some fun. Go chill with your girlfriend too." And I was just like, "What are you talking about, man? I got like, I got juries coming up." He's like, "Man, make sure you keep that balance in your life because otherwise you'll burn out." And that's what happens, man. A lot of people burn out, and that's how they can get dark on music in general because you're like, it's so tunnel vision, you know. And what I was gonna say is I experienced that this semester or this past year with a few students, man, and they had their moments. They managed it well. First of all, they're in school during COVID, which is kudos to anybody that is in school and
I
excelling,
can't even.
during COVID. But they kind of had their moments where they were getting a little crazy, and I'm like, I got to do this. I'm like, yo, take a beat, take a step back. Although we're working on things, like take a step back, man. Sometimes I would just end up talking. We wouldn't even do any playing, just to see where somebody's mind is even that much more helpful to them because they would just talk about things and it would just be a moment they can release their frustrations. I'm not trying to make the lessons a therapy session, but at the same time, I know nobody did that for me. So I would say, hey man,
Right,
what classes you got going? What's going on in your classes? What do
right.
what you got coming up? And I would a lot of my lessons ended up being like mentally reshaping certain ways of thinking versus and how they apply to playing. Being a little bit more open to your surroundings and what's happening versus you just kind of caving under the pressure. It's the same thing with music. You got to be receptive to what's going on around you. Be open to what's happening in the moment versus you being so locked in and having a preconceived notion of what you're gonna play. I gotta be tunnel vision, you know, and I had to really pull a few people out of that. I don't want to say gutter, but they had to pull them out of that direction, and it was cool, man, because you see literally like weight lifted up off of people
100%.
in those moments, you know. So
You know, it's funny as you're saying that. It's like it took me so long to realize because you get so caught up in us, like in the what I'm playing, all the stuff I'm playing, and you forget it's all about this. It's all about listening. Like you got to get on the bandstand and forget all the shit and just react. I mean, you've been telling me this shit for years, and it's like I actually just feel like in the last couple years I'm starting to feel it. Like, and then when you become aware, you realize, you know what my problem is focus and concentration and these little emotional whatever hiccups. That's what's affecting the plane. It's not the fucking fulcrum or the subdivision. It's none of that. At the end of the day, I mean, of course, you got to work on that shit forever. It's a lifetime. We're never gonna stop working on it. But the mind, man, it's like, whew, that's my journey. Like personally, like that's where I want to get better and stronger and just be reactive, just being. And I think a lot of musicians probably, it's hard. You start to find these little crutches. Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's weed, whatever. Like with the lifestyle of being a musician that started, it can be. I think it's hard for people to find how to get there, where you just in that moment without any other shit. You don't need anything. It's just in you, and it's definitely it ain't easy.
yeah, I think oh man, even touching on like the typical things that musicians might feel like they need. Listen, there's no knock against anybody that does weed, drinking, whatever. Hey, if you're having a good time, then cool. But at the same time,
Right.
when it becomes a crutch or it becomes a way, your only way to get to a certain place. Let me reverse that. When you think those things help you get to that place, that's when it becomes a crutch. You know what I mean? And you got to really be careful because you're starting to kind of like
100%.
program yourself, to think that the gift that's already been placed inside of you needs help getting out with, external things. And it's just like, no, a lot of it is you just being open to the moment, you yielding to the moment, you not having preconceived notions of how the moment is supposed to go. And I think the moment sometimes can be so sensationalized that people miss it. It's just like, all right, I want to be in the moment. I want to be in the moment, that the moment is passing you right by. It's like you so caught up in like, I want to be in the moment. It's like, yo, you missed it.
That's so good. Yeah, that's so on point, man. Like, you can't say that any better than what you just said. And it's funny because I remember being on the road with Matt and, like, my first times being out touring or whatever, doing gigs in these new places where there's every night's a new stage, there's a different backline kit, there's whatever, all this extra shit I don't have to tell you. I mean, being on the frickin' road, it just changes. Like, you think it's like, you think it's hard to just go to your local lagniappe and get in the moment. Imagine not sleeping and whatever. And he would tell me this thing where I'd have a good show where you feel like everything happened. And he'd be like, the next show, he'd be like, I can tell you're trying to replicate what you did on the last gig. And you can't do that. Every show is its own show. And I was like, shit, he was 100% right. It was like I'm chasing the ghost of the moment that I felt was real. And it's like, no, it's happening now.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. You're chasing the ghost. It's the truth, man. You're chasing the ghost of the moment or the ghost of what you did previously. And to be honest with you, man, all of us do it. We listen to recordings, we listen to great moments that we might have, and we're like, all right, cool. Subconsciously, you might say to yourself, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," but subconsciously you want to recreate that moment and see if you can feel what you felt when you heard it. And the truth is, what you're forgetting what made that moment organic. It happened in the moment. You know what I mean? It's not because you heard it prior to that moment.
Right.
Not to get super deep, but it's the truth. You got to make sure that if you're gonna be
Yeah.
if you're gonna yield to the moment, that's what you got to do. Don't walk into these situations like you brought up a great point. The road is a teacher of that. It's a great teacher of that because you got to make it happen. Like you said, okay, y'all just left the airport. Y'all haven't even been to the hotel yet. You go straight to sound check. Sometimes no sound check. You got to go straight into festival mode, and y'all got to play the show. Like you got to make it happen, which means if you're in a moment, if you're in a headspace that you have preconceived notions of what you're gonna play, you already screwed because you suffering from lack of sleep. You haven't eaten, whatever. There's so many things running through
Right.
your mind. That's why it's important you yield to the moment and tune out everything else when you're playing, because yeah, you can let a great moment pass you by. I've had a lot of great moments that were just like, I was even glad they weren't recorded because I was just like, oh, it forced me to not even listen, like you said, chase the ghost. I'm just like, man, that's never gonna happen again.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
It is. It's especially in an era now where we feel like we have to capture everything, and then our audience thinks they need to capture everything. Like everyone's on the gig like this now. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not hating on it. I'm doing the same shit, but I'm just saying it's like we got to remember. It's like your phone perception of your gig is just not what you can't capture that. So even that's another thing I think is tricky for like when you're shedding and you're listening back to recordings. That can be a tricky thing too because it's like it's a great way to get better, but then it's like if then you're listening to yourself and if you're too analytical, it's like, well, like the phone next to your kit, that's maybe not exactly how the audience was perceiving the group and all this stuff,
Yeah. That is tricky, and you got to be careful of that, like recordings and I don't know, because I was like the recording guy, especially like on the church side. Like I would record everything because I've always
because it all sounds so good.
Oh, bro. But just like, especially the band I played in at church, the corner, like these guys are just so incredible that every week it was just like the most amazing thing you ever heard. And I would just want to make sure we capture it. You know what I mean? I have tons of hours of stuff or whatever, but here's the flip side. As the years go on, we've all grown. We've all done things. We play different ways. Like, if we all get together now to try and play what we played back then, it's going to be so different, bro. It's going to be so... And I've actually had to experience that. And the thing is, different doesn't mean bad. It's just different. It's just that we're all different players. A lot of the recordings I have, I was like 16 years old, 18 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 35 now, bro. I don't play the same way.
Right.
So I'm just talking about me. Imagine a whole band. So you got to be careful with. I like the way you put it, man, chasing the ghost. Because there are a lot of people that chase the ghost and just like don't realize they haven't grown.
Yeah.
In a long time. They still sound the same way. They still approach music the same way. So, and that's kind of a sad thing, man.
Yeah.
With music or life in general.
100%. I mean, that's like, it's like you said, you got to be open to the experiences. It's like that openness is the only way you keep growing. It's like if you're just trapped in this.
Yeah.
It's a good segue because I wanted to ask you, so you get out of, because we were talking about the road and all the shit that brings up. It's like, so you went out and I know the timeline of when you went from music school to the Lauryn Hill gig and like that kind of, how did that all start? And was that your first pop touring situation or?
I think so. Actually, I think it was like pop secular, my first pop secular tour. It was weird, man, because Lauryn was not even exaggerating, bro. Lauryn Hill had been, or at least her mom, who was the manager at the time, she had been calling me for maybe 6 months before I graduated. No, actually a year before I graduated. And it was so funny, man. Like her mom would call me who's her manager, like I said, she say, hey, Lauren wants you to go to Africa with her next week for 2 months. I'm like, yo, I got finals, man. I can't do that. And although I'm super like flattered, and it was a real moment of integrity too, for me, because I could have just been like, man, screw school, and I'm going on the road, which a lot of people have done and have been successful. But for me, it was just so important for me to complete the task at hand. That I was a firm believer that if God brought me the opportunity, He'll bring me another one, whatever, and that's what happened. So anyway, I got called like maybe 4 times while I was in school. And finally, the last time, bro, that she called me, her manager called me, Lauryn gets on the phone. Lauryn Hill gets on the phone. She's like, I'm not understanding what the problem is. We've called you 4 times now. What's the problem? I'm like, nothing, Lauren, I appreciate it, but I have finals, so I can't. I got drum juries, so I can't. You know what I mean? But anyway, to get back to what we were saying,
She must have been like, what?
She did.
You got what?
She was like, huh? I was like, yeah, I got finals. I thank you for the opportunity, but I can't go. But anyway, that was my first pop touring situation. And then from there, things just started to happen, which was cool. I was just like itching to get out of school, man, because I was ready to hit the road. So that was my first official pop tour, and I toured with Lauren for like I think almost a year, something like that. Yeah.
And for all the listeners out there, YouTube, Lauryn Hill live. Was that the Fallon show?
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. Yep, in New York.
Yeah, you can check that out. And I mean, it's funny because like there's so many like, that tour or that band. It seemed almost kind of like a birthplace for a lot of rhythm section guys down here. I mean, you did that with Leo Brooks, right?
No, actually, Leo had just recently left that gig.
Oh, okay.
I got in the band like maybe 3-4 months after he left the band. So man, the band that was there, they were great though, man. Super killing, and they had been on the road for like I think 5-6 months already. So I was just filling in for the current drummer, and it was cool, man, because she asked me to stay, but talking about integrity again, I was just like, no, I'm filling in for this guy. Let him come back and do his gig.
Right.
Yeah. That was a real moment for me with the band, too. I won a lot of cool points with the band with that one. Because I knew, man, at the end of the day, we all got to look out for each other. I could have just been like, man, all right, this is my gig now. It's like, no, this man has a family, whatever. And I told him, I was like, yo, send me home. Bring him back.
Yeah.
Because they really did ask me at a certain point. Management was like, yo, she likes you. She wants you to stay on the tour. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on you, though, man.
Yeah, to me, I believe that stuff comes back, man. Yeah. I could have done that and undercut that guy, and somebody did it right back to me in the future.
100%.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And was there, like, what was that like that first experience being out on the road? Like, how did it feel? What did you, like, emotionally?
Crash Course.
Yeah.
That tour especially, man, with Lauryn Hill. She's great, man, and I won't go into all the details or whatever, but she, it was a lot. I had to learn a lot, dealing with different people's personalities. The rehearsal schedule was weird. We would rehearse, sometimes rehearsals wouldn't start until 12 a.m. and we go to about 4, and then we got to leave for the airport at 6. So even like the militant aspect of it, it was just like crazy hours and stuff like that. But it was a challenge, to be honest with you, and a lot of it didn't have anything to do with music.
Did you feel like after you got done, you were like, okay, I got a taste of this, I dig it, or you were like, you know what, being on the road kind of sucks? Like, I mean, because I feel like there's so many myths when you're not doing it, when you haven't done it yet, and then when you finally do, you like the actual work of it and the sleep schedule and everything you're describing. Like, what did you feel when you came out? Were you like, that was awesome, I can't wait to get back? Or you're like, that was hard, like, to just be on the road?
Well, that situation, I knew there was better. not being a jerk about it, but it's the truth. I knew there was better, and I knew that I had to just keep pushing to get on better situations. Better better camps. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, not to badmouth that camp, but it was just a lot of unnecessary stuff that we dealt with. So in essence, it was good for me to kind of learn. Like, I felt like with that tour, I really paid some dues because I was just like thrown back at a lot of things, man, whether it be money to logistics to the proper planning of a tour to, it was a lot of stuff, man. As many uh, great things that happened on that tour, it was still, and I did 2 tours with her, but the first 2 I'm talking about, it was crazy. She was pregnant, so
Oof.
yeah, it
It's a
was
lot, man.
not putting a lot on that. I was just saying, like, so she was dealing with a lot,
Right, right.
that we had to kind of be patient with her. So it was a lot, man.
Yeah. That I feel like that's such a. I just remember being like a teenager and just being like, I just want to be on do a big stage, like any opportunity that's going to get me on a big stage or whatever. And then when the first thing that I realized, like doing any kind of whatever stage where there was like a big crowd or like with like stage, and you're like, man, I just want to hear the bass player next to me with the amp, and I want to hear my cymbals, and it's like, fuck, I got these stage monitors, they sound horrible, I'm screaming at the sound guy, it's like, yo, I have no kick, and it's like, no one prepares you for all that, you're like, wow, actually, these big stages suck, you can't hear anything.
Yep, I've been through all of that, bro. I've been through it where you just like, but you know what it helps you do too? It kind of helps you dumb down your expectations when you walk in these situations, because you walk into them like, all right, cool, man. We playing in front of 10,000 people tonight. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
You like, boy, you have no clue that first of all, the monitor guy could care less what you need in your monitors. You know what I mean? He's here for the headliner. He's not here for you guys.
Right.
So you better take what you can get. Another thing is being nice to the crew, so that they will help you.
Right.
Just different things you learn on the road, because I've seen horror stories, man, where these guys walk on and it's like, all right, cool, we're going to smash, and just like flames. Just, you know what I mean? Just because y'all thinking it's going to be one way, and it's not, man. Festival, like understanding that there's tour, which you guys rehearse and prepare for, and then there's festivals where it's like, it's kind of just whatever happens, happens.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And those are usually the biggest crowds. I played 30,000 people on a festival, and it's just like, oh God, did anybody hear what we just did?
And talk about then it's like, all right, I want to be in the moment. I want to be in the moment. Like
it's
that.
Tough, man. It's tough, but the more I've grown and played with different people and been in those situations, I walk in different now. Where it's just like, all right, cool. Let me assess. Again, being aware of your surroundings and the moment. All right, let me assess what's going on. Okay, cool. This guy on the monitors, on the monitor board, he looks like he has an attitude today. So let me treat this guy with the utmost respect. Be nice to this guy so that he can help us get through this show. You know what I mean? Just things like that where you won't know until you get on the road and experience it. Versus you coming in like, I need this. And he's like, so what?
Right.
I don't care.
They're people too. They're just like us.
Exactly.
It becomes that weird vibe though when you show up and it's like there's the sound guys and the band, and then when things get tense, like I saw some shit on at a festival. I'm not gonna say the name of the band, but they were riding the sound guy. I mean, riding him the whole and it's visible for the audience. Yeah. It's embarrassing for them. It's like everyone just needs to like, all right, like you said in the beginning, it's music.
It's music. You gotta take a step back. I got into it with a sound guy. I was on a big tour in Europe, and we were like opening for a major. At this time, he's the biggest artist in the world. But this guy was like the monitor guy for whoever was like the sound company or whatever. This guy, for some reason, just didn't like us, man. And it was like obvious. He made it obvious that he didn't like us. Until one day, dude, I guess I had a bad day.
Yeah.
I snapped. I didn't care if the artist people was in there. And the truth is, the artist that we were opening for, his camp was everywhere.
Yeah.
So they heard the argument, including the artist I was playing for. The artist was on stage with us. I was like, yo, I don't care. This dude's not going to keep disrespecting us. Yeah. So I had a moment. What I'm saying is, I'm being transparent. Right. I had that moment, but at the same time, there was still a lapse in my in my professionalism in that moment, and I felt terrible. I didn't bite my tongue about what I said to the dude. It was just the way I handled it in the moment that I chose to do it. It was just like, yo, that can't happen again.
Yeah.
Because then you don't realize you're not just representing you. You're representing the people, the camp you with, the artist you with. And thankfully everybody was cool because they knew the guy was being a jerk. But at the same time, I knew within myself I could have handled it better. So,
And that shit happens, man. With the
but that's what I'm
stress.
saying. Again,
Yeah.
I didn't learn that lesson until it happened. Because I was getting ready to throw a symbol at that dude. I didn't even care.
Well, and I don't think people I mean, being a drummer, man, it's a physical instrument.
Yeah.
It's really hard for us when shit's going wrong. We don't have a volume knob. We can't. We're. I mean, if you're not in in-ears, then you're physically hearing your cymbals. You're hearing harsh, high-frequency shit in your ear. You're trying to hear above that. You're trying to hear, and everyone. You're the first guy everyone's gonna blame if the groove isn't happening.
Exactly.
So that's what you respond. I mean, that's it.
You're the quarterback, man.
Yeah, straight up,
Yeah.
straight
You're
up.
the quarterback.
Actually, and it makes me I want to ask you this because I feel like this could be helpful for drummers out there might be listening. It's like, all right, if you have the choice between in-ears or stage monitors, and you don't know if it's going to be a full-on sound check, what are you going to choose for you personally?
For me personally, it depends on the situation. Mainly because if you're dealing with tracks, like clicks and all that kind of stuff, cues and everything, absolutely ears, no question.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if you got to buy yourself like a little volume controller that they can give you a mix for, absolutely ears. But if you like, y'all just playing some groovy stuff, you ain't got no tracks involved. Usually for me, the main time I would say ears is if we got like tracks involved. And I got to make sure I'm playing on a click and cues and stuff like that. Other than that, man, I'll take a wedge just so I can hear everybody and what's going on. It also helps me to govern, my touch and my sound to adjust to the room, to play to the room. So playing to the monitor has its perks too, man, because you could really feel the room more versus ears. When you're on ears, man, it's just kind of like it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I would say it to answer your question, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I in-ears, man, one of those things. It's just never going to be what you want it to be. It's hard.
It's tough. Yeah, unless you like on the tour, which I've had all sides where it's just absolutely excruciating. It was horrible. I was just can't believe we were doing this or whatever. But then I've also been a part of tours where it was just like, man, I can't believe how great this is. You know what I mean? So I've been a part of all of those situations. And then I've been in situations where I'm like, yo, turn these ears off, pump the track in the monitor.
Yeah.
And I'll play off the monitor. And I've had to do that tons of times too. So
that's when the heart rate is going up. You're like throwing things.
Oh yeah, bro. That's called, and I always say this to friends of mine when I play gigs, man. There's always a moment for me where you just gotta play. You know, nothing super like philosophical about it. You just gotta play, bro. Play the songs. If that's why I said there have been moments. I'll never forget. There was a situation I played in Africa. I was in like Ghana somewhere, and I asked them for in-ears, and they assured me everything was gonna be cool. Of course, we get the sound check with ears and everything. Everything's good. Get to the show. They start the track. No ears. I was like, yo, man. And this artist I was playing with, he was huge, bro. So there was just no room to miss. So eventually, like one of the other guys in the band, he's like, yo, I gotta pump it through the monitors. I was like, cool. They pumped the tracks through the monitors, clicking all. It was just like, all right, man, let's just go.
Yeah.
I either take that moment to like cave and crumble, or you rise to the occasion. So
100%.
That's what you do. And I had to play the rest of the show like that.
And that's great shit to hear, man, because it's like, I don't think, no one, like I said, like being younger and like, it's like, people, the longer you do this thing, you're going to get in, these situations. If that's your goal, if you're coming out of music school and these are your goal, you're going to have the opportunity. They're going to come. And it's like, are you prepared for this shit that's gonna happen? It's like all part of the preparation. I think it's good to keep that in mind ahead of time. Like it's like you said, to anticipate like how things are gonna be before you get there, expecting this is the moment, this is the greatest moment, and it's like you put the ears in, you're like, what? This is what? And it's like,
and that's happened to me a million times. Where you just walk in like, all right, this is gonna be crazy tonight. And you walk in and nothing, or somebody else had to share the gear with you, so nothing is where it was when you left it in sound check. They didn't even tell you were sharing kits.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that, man. Where it's just, like that's why I say I've been on a high where, okay, you playing in front of 10,000 people, the mix is perfect, everything is where you needed to be. So to me, when I even got to those moments in my career, I was just like, I almost felt weird because I'm like, you're almost in this pessimistic like way of thinking, like, all right, cool, something's going wrong soon, so let me keep a lookout for that, and it doesn't, So again, finding that balance, and it's been cool, man. It's just been great to go through all of that stuff and realize you'll make it through it. It's not the end of the world. You'll get through it. Some mess ups or failures are bigger than others, but then you'll get past it, And
Right.
and I not to sound like cliche, but I really feel like those are moments that are opportunities. Like, what did you learn? What did you take from this situation? It was colossal and it was huge and it was bad, but what did you take from it? What did you learn? So yeah.
100%.
Hindsight is 20/20 sometimes, man.
That's the truth, man.
Yeah.
And I just want to take you back a couple things. I got my notes here. We had talked briefly, like, the coming up in the gospel scene and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you more specifically, because obviously there must have been a period where your name in that scene kind of rose, and you're doing clinics and stuff. Because I remember, I'd sent you this link that like I wore this video out, and it's on your Chiverton's YouTube now. But I feel like when I saw it back in the day, and this was 10 years, 12 years ago maybe.
Okay.
It was circulating. It must have been some other thing, or it's the same video from whatever. But I remember watching that. It's you guys, people can YouTube it. It's a Texas clinic. It's in a church, and you're playing some shit that I just like. I remember watching and be like, what is happening? What is sounding? And specifically, like, and I might be speaking out of ignorance, but it's a vocabulary between like a mini China and a floor tom, and in the context of shout, like how did that language like develop, like your own style playing shout? Because I do feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but you have your own way, and you guys, like Dwayne and Tadarius, all you guys, at develop your own thing. Obviously, a lot of people know about Jump and Wave and shit like that on YouTube, but like, where did your own vocabulary in shout, like context, drumming like that come from?
Well, one of my main influences is, especially in like shout and all that stuff, we were big fans of like Ty Tribbett and Soundcheck. We were huge fans of them at the time. So I honestly feel like those guys, they unlocked something in all of us. Well, I'll just speak for myself. Like George Spanky McCurdy. Yeah. Man, his way of just approaching music was just something that we had never heard. They were so off the cuff with like everything. And the cool thing about them, they were so like, how do I say, they cross genres so much. They are hip hop heads too. You know what I mean? So it's like they kind of bought Dilla to gospel music or whatever. They from, whether they, I think a lot of them from Philly and a lot of them from Jersey. So it's like all of that meshed in to like this one thing. And anyway, that really, listening to them, a lot of their bootlegs, man, it's just the stuff that they were playing was just like, no exaggeration, it was stuff I just never heard in my life, and how they approached music. It wasn't that they were so much better than anything I've ever heard, but it was different. And I think that's, listening to guys like that really unlocked, my personality when it pertained to music, or my identity when it pertains to music. So to answer your question about like how did I develop that stuff, listening to them and kind of going from like, okay, I'll go back to school. When you listen to a Max Roach record and you try to transcribe a solo or whatever, you're getting into the mind of Max Roach.
Right.
You know, you're getting into, you know, specific vocabulary that he decided to use and on whatever tune or album. It was the same way with me with that stuff with Soundcheck. Some stuff I would go for, but some stuff I would kind of just listen to why they approached that way. And to get to the point that it almost like it freed me from, you know, what I think I'm supposed to do in certain moments. You know, when I was listening to Soundcheck, I'm like, man, these guys are not following the rules at all.
Yeah.
They just threw the rules out of the window. That's why they were such a, like, in gospel music, man, they took over everything. Like, everybody would run to see them if they came to your town because they just threw the rules out of the window. And if you think about history in general, anybody that does that, they end up being the revolutionary in music. You know, Miles throws the rules out of the window. You know what I mean? Whoever, James Brown, like they don't approach things the way everybody else did. So anyway, that kind of really played a major component in like me developing my own style. So like that video you saw was from a clinic actually with Sput C, right? He was on that, and Mike Mitchell. You hit the Mike Mitchell?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mike Mitchell.
He must have been really young then.
No, bro, I was like, man, or maybe.
No, I'm saying Mike. He must have been like.
Oh, Mike was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mike was like 16, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Oh man, that dude. Yeah, we'll get back to him. But yeah, he did something where he ran around the kid the night before playing the field. I was just like, cool, man. Here the sticks, man. I'm good. But anyway, that clinic was crazy. But even in that clinic, it was a moment for me that I just played.
Yeah, man.
I just kind of got on and did my thing because the guys that were on, you know, the bill with me, Sput, man. Come on, he's Sput.
Right. No, they're heavy.
He's just, you know, and of course Mike, and I didn't really know much about Mike then until I met him that day. And then there's another guy on there, Aaron Mayfield, who's also a killer in gospel. But I just kind of just approached it, man, like whatever, like just have fun. That was a tune I had played a million times because we had previously recorded that album. And I was just like, all right, man, let's see what comes out. And it was cool, man. It was like a really like a great moment. And it's not until I watched the video back then, I'm like, I really have to talk to myself, like, was that really cool? Or was everybody just hyping me? Or what was it? You know what I mean?
It was cool as shit. I can tell you. I mean, I there's something about your specific vocabulary. And it's, I mean, you know, I'm not claiming to be an expert on I've listened to a lot of gospel music, and there was a period where I was really into even the old stuff and just trying to just get through the history, just absorb it the way I would like studying jazz or something, even though, you know, I'm not playing in a gospel church, but just, you know, trying to take in that vocabulary. And there's just something about the way you've approached it that's always struck me. And that video is like a microcosm. You display that same vocab and other stuff. And it's like, I was like, I remember I was like, just listening all the time, and Dwayne came over. We were doing some like Bardot gig I was setting up, like trio. And I busted into some shit in like a breakdown that like, because I had just been listening to this video, and he turns to me and goes, "You've been playing in churches?" And I was like, and I'm like, "No, man, but I've been watching this friggin' video of Dave like 100 times a day trying to figure out, hear it over and over, like what is happening." And I, you know, was from where you start in terms of like textures and like, when did gospel music go from like, you know, you're riding the bell or the open hat or whatever to like the mini China and the floor tom being right there? And then, I know I'm getting real specific here, but
no, but that's good. That's what I said. Like Spanky was very much a part of that movement, if not, you know, one of the leaders of that movement, because nobody really had, in terms of shouting music, nobody was really doing like, you'll hear some cats play some stuff off of the bell, but there was nobody doing a 2 and 4 on the China.
yeah,
I had never heard anybody do that but Spanky. Like I give him 100% that credit, because nobody was doing that before him, man. And so, you know, of course, everybody starts to emulate it, and including myself, and they start to, well, for me, I was just trying to figure out how to make it my own. versus just copying what he was doing. The cool thing that worked out for me stylistically was, my culture down here, being from Miami. So not being funny, but like being from Miami, I was telling somebody the other day, like you got the booty shaking culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where it's like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when we were like the corner, he went to Darius, Vaughn, all of us in church, we all have that in our playing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So sometimes in church it started to feel that way. But we all like, I'm talking about shouting music though.
Yeah.
So of course, culturally, videos get out there and people see it on YouTube. They're like, what is this? So even in us being influenced by Soundcheck or whatever, we still took our own influences and made them our own. Which I'm thankful for, man, because I would hear guys say, "Man, you originated that style." I'm like, I was very much heavily influenced from like a Spanky or Sput or whatever. But yeah, I know that
they're hearing it through the lens of these guys that you do it with, right? And it puts it into a context. Yeah, gives it a different color, right? Because it's like
it gives it a different thing, and I had to learn how to accept that compliment without feeling like I had to always push them back to like a Spanky or whoever, whatever. Because if I listen to it and then listen to what those guys did, it's very different. There's some remnants that are very similar, but it's super different when you hear us play and then you hear another church band play. It's different. That's just like somebody might be super influenced by what we did and say, which I've heard a lot of guys say on the church scene, like, yo, man, y'all kind of took the world by storm. And we we was just having fun, man, So it's all left up into interpretation. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I mean, it just reminds me of two things. It's like, one, it's like, okay, you're riding the China and then you're doing linear patterns with your left hand on the floor tom and the kick drum. But
it's comping.
And it's like, but you're turning it into a groove, and it could be a fill too. And it's like, fuck, man, that's deep. I mean, there's something.
It's like taking a certain concept and making it a launching pad, and that's what I did. It was just like what I told you I would learn from Spanky, who was doing the 2 and 4 on in the shout. And he would do little things with his left hand. I would kind of take what he did and just expound on it. So before I know it, I'm doing other little tricks on my left hand on the snare or between the hi-hat and the floor tom. Sometimes I'm switching hands, things like that. So you almost like I said, it's like transcribing. You take what you learn from a Max Roach and then you apply it to your own plan. You have 100%. To say what it means to you.
Do you think there's a relationship between that and... Because one time you told me, I asked you about your jazz ride cymbal approach. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but it's related to the China on the 2 and 4. It's like you told me you're always thinking about that 2 and 4 accent on swing. Yeah. Where it's funny because when you said that to me, I was like, really? Like, I've never heard it. There's a lot of guys, they're like, oh, quarter note. Or you hear some guys, they're elven, so they go da-da, da-da, and they accent the up. But you're like, I'm always thinking da-da-da, da-da-da, like the 2. And then if you think about it, if you're it's just like the way you shout because you're comping. Yeah. And then you're like, all right, kick, snare are talking, and this is going. I mean, it's like they're exactly the same.
I'm always thinking about dancing for me. Yeah. Especially when it pertains to swing. Like, I want somebody to feel like they can dance. Like, if somebody could get up at any point in time, even if it's fast, like somebody feels. I want somebody to feel like they can just get up and start dancing at any point in time. Especially a medium swing. You want that thing to feel like. Now, here's the thing I learned about swinging, specifically the ride thing. There are wrong ways to do it for sure, but I was also going to say that it's a matter of preference, man, and it depends on who you're playing with. Because if you're playing with some old heads, they want that. they want that quarter in there to keep things kind of put, So I had to kind of learn how to adapt to every situation, But my favorite in terms of what I like, that 2 and 4. Make that 2 and 4 feel good, and the comping is supposed to just complement that,
When you were coming up, developing your sound for jazz, because I mean, you really have a sound for jazz. It's not like, and I'm not blowing smoke here, but it's like I know enough to as I wouldn't say I'm a jazz drummer, but I do feel like a jazz musician, and I do my own thing coming from that place, and obviously respecting the tradition so much, but there's not a lot of you've gone all the way with it. You're not just like, yeah, I'm playing ride cymbal and I'm comping, I'm doing the patterns, but get me back on the pocket gig or whatever. Like you have like the drums and the cymbals. You found a whole. When did who was the drummer, or what jazz records? What was the thing that was like, okay? Because I remember you were saying that switch from like coming from the gospel scene, and then you go to music school and you're like, shit, I gotta. But now that's all out of the way. What was the shit that really got the concept for you, and who did you love?
Oh man, to be honest with you, okay, well, I definitely love, in terms of jazz guys that really helped me and influenced me heavy. My ultimate favorite was Tony Williams, for sure. Just, man. And what I kind of gauged eventually when I was able, I learned how to really communicate what I felt back then. I like certain guys for certain things. I love Tony Williams' fire. He's just, everything he played was just fire. Even if it was a ballad, there's a certain fire and intensity that he had. I love Max Roach for how conservative he was. You know what I mean? I felt like he was the guy that, which he was, you see him in a suit and tie. And it was just like, yo, that's how you play a jazz gig. I love Elvin for the sloshiness of it's just grit, So I started to kind of get all of these influences, but that's what I would begin to do with every player. Like, what do I like about this guy? Because it will also help me not become a carbon copy of these people. You know what I mean? Some of us, when we get into, like transcriptions and all that stuff, we start to sound like these people. Where for me, I love, I would start to get specific details about what I like about somebody. It's like, how can I capture Tony's fire with Elvin's conservative approach? But then I want Elvin's vibe. You know what I mean? Like capturing all of that stuff in my playing, So, I mean, being heavily influenced by those guys, in terms of guys that I saw like doing it all, like authentically, there wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of guys, man. If you really think about it, like there weren't a lot of guys that you listen to. Well, one guy that was really good, that was pretty killing, Teddy Campbell.
Yeah.
Teddy Campbell, yeah. Teddy
Campbell. Man. Shit, I haven't thought about that name.
Yeah, but he was a guy, and I've been funny, it's just the truth. He was a guy that looked like me, came from the hood, he, whatever, played on amazing records in gospel, but crossed over. Now you see Teddy on American Idol, where you see him playing with, I don't know anybody, man. He would play with everybody, Britney Spears, and then you would see him play with Al Jarreau or something like that. And I'm just like, or Lil Jon Roberts. Guys like that I was like, man, okay. And then for me, I wanted to take it a step further because I haven't necessarily seen those guys play like bop stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? But for me, I'm like, yo, I want to play all of that. I want to be able to go from a pop tour to a gospel tour to country to a jazz bop gig. That was my objective when I was in school.
You really have achieved it. I mean, and that shit is. No, and it's not easy because there's so many considerations. It's like you said, like jazz is its own like umbrella of a million things, and then it's like a drummer. So many cats like they just don't get like I think they miss like they could be great drummers, but it's like it goes down to the cymbal choice. It goes down to the like
everything,
every little like to get that flavor, to sit right. But then to be able to then switch gears on the next day and really play some. It's not a lot of cats get there. Right. I think your mentality around music allows you to get there quickly because like you said, your openness and like the discipline of like the fundamentals are still always there. Like what is the core groove? And like if you I feel like focusing on groove allows you to focus on feel.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
You just said the golden word, which was groove. In every genre of music that I've played in my life, groove is the common denominator. Even if you're playing some avant-garde, whatever in jazz, like you're gonna be approached with making something feel good. Whether it be a ballad with brushes or, like you said, your beat, your cymbal beat. It's all about groove. Same thing with a pop song. Same thing with a gospel song. At that point when you're really trying to encompass all of these things, it's literally about vocabulary at that point. It's like, cool, I'm not going to play in pop, the vocabulary I play in gospel. Although the lines are being blurred a little bit nowadays, but at the same time, or I definitely not gonna play jazz vocabulary in a pop situation. So that to me, that's the only major thing that separates them. But the mentality in terms of your job and what you're supposed to do, feel and groove, that's what gets you hired. That's what gets
100%.
you a call back. You got to make sure you take that mentality to every situation. You just learn the vocabulary, so it's just like going to another country, like going to France, and then deciding you're gonna speak Russian. Everybody gonna look at you like, "Yo, what are you doing? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
As an analogy. But you
Right,
want to
right.
go into France, speak French. I go to Russia, I'm gonna speak Russian. You know what I mean? Whatever. You know what I mean? So you want to develop the vocabulary and the tools you need so that when you play these genres, you're free. You're free to do that. But
No, I mean, it's funny you say that because I remember like when I was starting to play jazz gigs or whatever, putting little restaurant gigs together, and I was always wanted to play with Eric England and had Conrad, those guys around, and I remember like my goal, and that's your guy, man. So it's like I've seen you guys, play together so much, and like trying to capture that for myself, and like what is how to do it all, and he was so good for me because he could tell that I was hungry and that I didn't know anything, and I was trying to learn on the gigs.
yeah,
And I just remember it was my goal for years. It was like, I just want to play one jazz gig that Eric doesn't turn around and tell me anything. Like that was 5 years of
Yeah.
where he like, and I remember one time he was like,
yeah,
how he does.
and that means, man, you sound good.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you're doing something. First before it would be like,
And he doesn't talk.
he's
gotta know what he means.
He's miming you like with stick changes
Yeah.
while he's still just destroying the beat too.
Yeah.
And you're like, God, man. And I think that's another thing is like, I'm sure for you, and I don't want to speak for you, but like coming up in the church scene, it's like you're learning from playing with people. That's the thing with music school. It can get tricky because you get your ensemble time, but man, you can't learn how to swing it by yourself.
Bro, listen to me. Another thing that I've been touching a lot on in lessons and stuff like that, I'm like, you have to, lessons and everything are, they're great to get you got to get all of that stuff under your belt, the mechanics and all that stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, it means nothing without application. Like you got to be, okay, if we're talking about groove, if you're not grooving or putting yourself in a position to play with some people, you're not going to get it. I say, man, you're going to be grooving your behind off in your garage.
Right.
In
Right.
your room, in your practice room. But where you're practicing all this stuff so that when you get in public, you're liberated. It's like, cool, I don't have to think about locking in with the bass player. That's why you're playing with a recording and listening to the bass and how you're supposed to lock in. Not just to say, okay, somebody's going to turn on a recording at a club. Like, no, when you get with the physical bass player, you ain't thinking about that stuff. All right, cool, man, let's play.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And you don't know that they have their shit totally together.
Exactly. But at the same time, y'all still open to getting somewhere together. That was the cool thing about Eric, who, is my brother, man. But he and I just kind of developed a lot together.
Yeah.
Eric was always a bad dude on bass, man. Like upright and electric, he's just one of the best. But for he and I, we learned a lot. And don't get me wrong, we had our moments. Like we would have blow ups. And it would never be anything crazy because he and I are both like kind of mild. I talk way more than Eric, but we will have our moments where we go at it. I'm like, yo, I don't like the way you playing. Or he's like, well, you could do blah, blah, blah. We would go at it. But at the same time, man, like that's a dude I know I could go to war with because he's just a beast. The integrity aspect of his playing and him being open too. That's what has allowed us to play for so many years together, man. And it's crazy. I look up at how many years we have been playing together. It's been maybe 15 years.
It's incredible, man.
Yeah, man.
You guys have a special thing too. I mean,
man.
Whether it's New Jive or whether it's a Straight Ahead or Nicole Henry or
I've played in almost every situation with him, and I can honestly say like he's a guy he's just a beast to the core, from upright to electric. Like you said, new drive, where we're learning together how to like approach this music. It's super crazy. But then I don't play some funk stuff with Eric, and he's like a P-funk head, so we could sit there and play 2 and 4 all
Yeah.
day. But then I'll play some bot with Eric, and he's killing. So I've been in like almost every situation. Pop, Johnson Cotta,
All right.
that's all the way pop. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, he's one of those guys that's really like one of the special ones. And even though he lives in LA, like we play together, he comes home, it's like nothing ever left.
Yeah. That's one of the best things about that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
That can only be grown from that much time committed to somebody. I mean, it's like, it's like that thing.
And
will never
like
go away.
mentalities. And you
Right,
gotta have
right.
like mentalities, yeah. Mhm.
No, I think too, like, for some of these guys who are coming out at not to, and I'm saying this not as some sort of like, oh, let me teach the younger kids, it's, I'm still trying to figure my shit out. But one thing I will say is like, get with guys that are better than you and be willing to go through that pain, man, of
Yeah.
the real shit. That was the thing for me with Eric and Conrad. I was like, I knew of course I wanted to play with them. I was excited, but I also knew it was going to be hard. I knew that I had so much to learn, but I was like, I'm hungry, man. I'm just going to fucking I'm going to call these guys. I'm going to hit up a restaurant. They're going to play for $100. And then I'm going to be like, tell me what to do. Tell me the real shit. And, if you approach that way, you can learn a lot, even though it can be painful. Because, if you're a type of guy who wants to be told what you want to hear, everyone's going to just be like, you sound great, man. And then they don't call you. So you don't want to be that guy. It's better to be like, it's better to be the guy that, hey, maybe you're not getting calls, but you set up your own gigs. You get these guys, show them the kind of person you are, your love for the music. At the end of the day, you can't get better on this shit unless you're playing with a guy who's better than you on this. And they're like, dude, the beat. And I've had so many traumatic, oh my God, my first experiences, I'm sure like getting in the top 40 bands for the first time, coming out of UM, where you really don't know. I didn't know how to play songs. And those gigs are hard, man.
But that's why I say, and this is nothing against UM or any school out there. That's the only thing I've been kind of finding that is a little bit of a disadvantage with a lot of the students that are graduating or just in school in general. Sometimes I feel like they're kind of not being prepared for the future, because they learn how to be a professional student. They know how to be a great student, but then the real life hits them. And it's just like, it almost takes a year or two before cats really understand what's happening. You got the typical thing where, especially in jazz, where, all right, cool, I'm going to New York after I graduate. It's like, you sure you want to go to New York? Because they're going to give it to you up there.
It's good that you're being real with them, man.
Oh, bro. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
right.
I'm not going to, if I'm not going to help you and be honest and transparent with you, I'd rather not teach you. You know what I mean? Because if you're looking for me to just say you sound good, nah, I'm not the guy for you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm going to respect you. But at the same time, if you really want to talk about it, let's get into it. But what I was saying, the point I was making was just saying, I feel like sometimes with school, it could really kind of set people up for the okie doke. Because they graduate with these degrees and it's cool. But then you get out there and you can't groove. You know what I mean? You got cats that ain't seen the textbook, ain't seen the school. You know what I mean? And they're grooving out of the water. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how long they've been doing it, and they do it in their sleep. But then you walk on with this student approach, and everybody's like, nah, we good, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, don't worry about it, cool, we'll call somebody else. So that's kind of been, especially with teaching now at a university and all that kind of stuff, I feel like I want to try my hardest to be as effective in that area as possible, like really preparing cats for when they leave. It's like, yo, I need you to play with some cats now, not just in school. I was like, yo, go play a gig. Go play a gig or find some cats that are going to kick your behind. Yeah. And go play some gigs so you understand what it is when you get out of here, because it's unforgiving, bro. When you get out here, it's super unforgiving, especially New York, man.
Oof.
It's like,
not even financially, let alone.
Come on, man.
It's like
it's 20 beasts on one block. You know what I mean? So that's the only downside I feel like, you know, as you always find your special ones that go on and do great things. But at the same time, a lot of these students are leaving and they're like the mediocrity is
Well,
being accepted.
no, and it's funny you say that because I want to tell you this, and this is a good segue for a question, which is, I had an experience. Well, let me say the preemptive notion of this is like, don't if you were in Miami and you're 19 and your head's already about New York, how about you go out and check out what's going on in town 10 minutes away from you? And if you think your shit really don't stink, okay, good for you. But,
Yeah.
let's just say that first. And my second thing is my story is just, I this isn't to be an asshole. It's just a way to express it. It's like I'm on a gig playing some jazz gig, whatever, like we do. Like this is what it takes to make a living. Playing $100 jazz gig. It's not fancy. It's not this isn't Village Vanguard, but I'm doing
Yep.
And I get off the stage, and a student who was a current student at the time, not now at that time, but he's like, kind of like condescendingly asked me, so why'd you stay in Miami or something, kind of like a put down and like a context, like because I'm not in New York, somehow I failed in life, right? Like that's kind of like the hidden, and I'm like,
Yeah.
there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm like, you live in a dorm, right?
Oh.
You live in a dorm. It's like, yeah, call me when you've paid rent, and like, and not even all that aside, but it's just like it just shows you, and then it's funny because, I just kind of, we know, I mean, you're a cat who, we're lucky in this scene that you stayed down here and that because you've helped your part. Like we need top guys to help lead a community, but this guy is not playing music on your level, so definitely don't be talking to me about like, oh, I should be. And then so the funny thing is, like, you flash forward like years later, I see him again at a gig, totally different attitude. Why? Because he's graduated.
Humble.
He's had a couple. He's been humbled, man, and now he's talking to me like maybe I have something to offer music. It's like, now you see.
Yeah.
Now you see.
Now you get it.
And it's like, it's not to say, hey man, if you want to go to New York or LA or Nashville or whatever, and go for it, like hell yeah. But it's like, but if you're in school and you're not going to Dave Chiverton gig, then you're already missing the point, man. Like, and a lot
I got you.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know. That subject is a little touchy for me.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I say that is because I have kind of I caught flack in the past because, like I said, I'm not a jerk and I'm not going to disrespect anybody, but I'm a straight shooter. You know what I mean? So if you ask me what's going on with what you got happening already, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, yo, your time is horrible, bro. You really need to get in the shed. Oh man, blah blah blah. I'm like, yo, you asked me, man. You know what I mean? Like, really get in the shed and really get some stuff going. In terms of, let's go back to the whole leaving thing. Listen, that's everybody. Different strokes for different folks. That's the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like my brother Obed Calvert, who's incredible. We all know is amazing. He's been trying to get me to go to New York forever, bro. He's like, you gotta get out of South Florida. No question, you gotta go. I'm just like, nah, man, it's not for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for me, I always looked at it with South Florida like, yo, it's my home. I'm born and raised from Miami, and then the common thing that people would say down here is like, you got to go away to be successful. And to a certain extent, we've seen that happen where a lot of guys have, left and ended up going on to do great things. But at the same time, I didn't equate that necessarily to where they were. I equate that to their hard work and their journey.
Yeah.
So again, going back to what you said, you following the ghost.
Right.
You know what I mean? People following the ghost of what somebody else has done, thinking that's the blueprint. And it's like, nah, man. I thank God for the career that I've had up until this point. I also feel like my best days are ahead. I feel like the best things I'm going to do are ahead of me. They're not behind me. And I don't necessarily equate that to a city or a state. That's based off, what God has for me. And then that's based off of my work ethic. what I decide is gonna happen. A lot of the calls that I've gotten out here, bro, a lot of people are like, how? How are you getting these gigs? I don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's relationships. It's like I said, it's God. It's, divine order, all these different things. But, everybody has these preconceived notions of how things are supposed to go. And I'm just like, nah, I just didn't want to conform to what I thought everybody else says you're supposed to do. Even Obed, you know what I mean? Like he's amazing. And he and I always fight about it, man. He's just like, yo, when are you leaving Miami? I'm
Right,
like,
right.
I don't know. I really don't know. And at one point I really considered it. I was just like, I was just gonna go to New York for like 3 months and see how I would survive up there. And I believe honestly in my heart that I could, but I'm now at a place where I'm older now. I got a wife and all this
Right.
stuff. It's just like, nah, unless we decide that's what we're gonna do, then cool. Bottom line is what I'm saying is you don't have to equate your success to a city. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or a place. It's all based on you, man, and the opportunities. Yeah, there are more opportunities in other places than others. You know what I'm saying? But
Of course.
it's based on you. And going back to the whole, the kid thing, what you were talking about.
Right, right.
Yeah, I've run into that a lot, man. For me,
They're probably asking you this in the practice
oh,
room.
bro.
Meanwhile, you're like, all right, let's trade fours.
Exactly. Well, not.
Set you up for that one.
Yeah, he did. But there are moments where I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. You talking real? You talking cash money right now? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man. I could. Well, all right, cool. Let's see. Let me put this click on. What you
Yeah.
got going? Let's see
Yeah.
what's happening. Oh yeah, your time is horrible. Click off. Like right there. You know what I mean? Okay, cool. Let me put you on the gig and see how you handled it. Oh, you can't even be on time. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? You can't even wear what they told you to wear on a gig, let alone play the gig. Things like that where there are different ways to humble cats. You ain't got to just be playing. You know what I mean?
And it's like, man, if you're not, if we're not like, if everyone in Miami's going to your gigs,
Yeah.
because you're being called so much and you're 19 school, and then that's the kid who's like, you know what, I want to go to New York. It's like, yeah, I get it. Like you want to, but it's like if you're not even, you haven't even, checked out the locals, where you are, and found your. It's like
it could be smoke, man. It could be
it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, absolutely. It can definitely be smoke, and some people have come back from it, some people don't. I've seen kind of both happen where, yeah, somebody was who they said they were. They went away. It may have took them 2 or 3 years to really get there, but they got there. I got a whole bunch of homies that moved away, and they did end up being successful. That's why I say it doesn't. To me, I don't equate that to a place, though.
You're right.
That's just me. Me personally, I equate that to your work ethic, your get up and go, your will to want to succeed, and again, God's plan for your life. So I don't know, man.
Well, and it's that whole thing about, I'm the thing that makes me like, and that's the other thing is like, and it's what I wanted to segue to you, just talking about the Miami scene and what it's afforded you. It's like the one thing cats don't realize, one thing we love it down here, maybe this is, I'm not speaking for you, but I want to ask you is, man, you can't play, it's so much harder to play multiple genres in any of those cities. There's so much competition. There's so much, like, if you want to be a cat who can like start a band, work on creative music with your friends, like, develop long-term relationships with musicians like in your community, but also maybe there's an opportunity to go on the road. And you might play a bop gig on a Saturday. Like, that's a lot. You can do that here, and which is why I love it. And you could constantly be, and I feel like it's like you said, like it adds to the way people play here because you can show up. Dave Chiverton could go to Lanyap and fucking smoke a jazz gig, and then you can play a pop tour. That is a lot harder of a thing to achieve in Los Angeles or New York. I mean, it just
because a lot of those places have cliques.
Right.
But I think it's just like anywhere, man. Because, it just happens, it so happens that Miami's a little bit more culturally open here. So you can have guys that are crossing genres like crazy. Because if you listen to, like, Jason, Jason Matthews, like, Jason can go play a jazz gig and kill it. But then if he got to go play some electronic stuff, like, he'll smash that too. Yeah. So I think it's actually a great thing when guys can just cross genres. Now that is a small pond here in South
Right.
Florida, guys that can do all of it.
Right.
Which to me, that means that's an area or a section that's for the taking. It's like, oh, okay, I want to be a guy that can do all of these different things, get calls. And I honestly believe in my heart. That's why I've been blessed to do and have so many great opportunities because, again, that was my objective in school. I wanted to make sure that when one thing is not happening, I could do another. You know, I could do this or whatever. Like you say, be able to play with Electric Kiff or the Smoogies and then go play with Nicole Henry or then go play with Austin Mahone. You know, these different types of gigs that are totally different. So you know, I feel like there are more guys that are trying to achieve that, but you know, if we get more people that are trying to like go for that, being able to cross genres, man, like that's gonna make the culture even more crazy down here. Specifically, you got people that are, because I mean, if you really be honest with it, you know, down here you got the Latin, you know, which is true. You got the Latin thing happening. You got some hip hop is happening. You know what I mean? Even I would even say the jazz side of it is very small. You know, but you got more of the fusion thing happening down here. But not a lot of people that are doing like everything. But it's so much happening, like you said. It's not necessarily imperative that it's like, all right, this has to be the jazz section over here. You might go to New York and experience that.
That's what I felt that way. You know, I spent a little time just hanging out there for a month one time, and it did. You know, I had a lesson with Ralph Peterson or whatever. But
wow,
rest in
that's
peace.
A dream, man. Yeah. Wow.
And it was funny because he painted it to me so real. He was like, man, it's like, I like your grip, I like your touch. He's like, do you want to play this music though? Like, it's like, he's like, make a list of all the rhythm changes and all the blues heads you know. It's like, and when I got there, it was like he had his trumpet out. We played like stablemates. I had slept like 1 hour. It was like insane, and it was like, but he was just saying, he just basically was just like this language of jazz is its own kind of commitment in and of itself, and I think too, just especially if you're going to do it in New York City. I mean, let's just be real. So you the amount of shit that I needed to get together, I ain't gonna have time to listen to my favorite Radiohead record. It's like Blakey for the next 6 months. So which like I said, it's like to each his, like that's beautiful if that's what your pursuit is, but at least know why you're going to, like what your real. And I left that lesson and went on a train. I was like, man, I want to. I don't know what I love so much music. I have so much. I'm not ready to take that step and just put my, you know, and I don't want to get burnt out or build a bad vibe about my own playing because I know I'm not ready to go to smalls.
And there are a lot of people, man, not to cut you off.
No,
there are a lot of people in that area right there that you just spoke of. They get lost.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they don't know what they want to do. And like I said, they end up getting dark.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to spend 6 months on Blakey, you know, really diving into this music. But then you realize after 6 months, I don't want to play this stuff. This is not the only thing I want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for me, it was really trying my hardest to dive into any genre that I'm playing enough that I can feel comfortable being me. And you know what I mean? When I'm in something and I'm trying to be somebody else, that's when I'm not going to be successful. 100%. Like if I'm listening, I would love to get on a country gig, but I'm going to listen to it from a perspective of how do I hear my interpretation of country? Not and what I don't mean any disrespect to the genre. I'm just saying I don't want to be another player. Like you had that lesson with Ralph Peterson. You're not going to be Ralph Peterson.
Right.
You're just not. But like he said, if it takes a certain level of commitment that you want to get to, you know, and I had a buddy of mine who actually went to New York, a student of mine who went to New York, and he kind of had similar experiences where he had all these lessons with John Riley and all these different amazing guys. But then it's just like he came back dark. It was just like, all right, cool. I know I got to get all this stuff going. But I'm like, yeah, man, because you're equating you getting all of this stuff under your belt as what you need to be successful.
Exactly.
And in terms of authenticity, to a certain extent, you got to commit to it. But at the same time, you still got to have fun, man. It still got to be something that is you're gonna enjoy in your life. And to me, that's kind of what gets a little mixed up in school, and like for guys who again have this preconceived notion of what it takes to be successful,
Right.
you
Or
know,
what success is.
or what success is exactly. You know what I mean? Like you came back, bro, and you killing it, man, with Twin and stuff you doing with Twin. Like that's your own lane. That's what you doing. You
Thank
know
you,
what I mean? And you have to figure out how to make yourself happy. It's not a lot of focus on positivity and happiness in music to me.
Right.
It's just not a lot of focus. I feel like it could get super dark and like it could become a chore.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like I gotta spend 6 months on doing this, and Bob was like, "Yeah, you do, but make sure you go out and have some fun too. Make sure you have a life."
No, and I think about, like, the one thing I really value about being in Miami, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do feel like this place affords it, is, like, think about for yourself, like, how many original projects you've been able to, like, New Jive and Smoogies most recently, and, even, like, back in the day with Leo, and that's, like, there is, like, I think, I'm trying to bring attention to what we got going on down here, and I'm sure you've always been that guy down here that's been like, yo, because and it's like, first of all, start with the playing, and start from there, and then also just like allowing yourself to have your own journey, like you're saying, and that it could become such a fool's gold. And anyway, I don't want to get too redundant on that.
You got the one-liners today, man. Fool's gold. It's true. It's true, because if you really, you get into that stuff and really dig deeper, the real cats will tell you, like, yo, what makes you happy? Yeah. What really makes you happy? You know what I mean? What really makes you, feel like yourself? And the truth is, it takes some time, too, because some cats are not going to figure that out for years. No. Like I said, I'm 35 now. And I wish I had the maturity to understand back in the day, like, yo, just have fun, man. That things will happen organically, If you're really, like I said, if you're attracting positivity, which is you're practicing, being respectful to your fellow musicians, really embracing the opportunities and experiences that you're having now, more positivity is gonna come your way, man. It's gonna come to you when it's supposed to. Versus, I'm going to sit here and play this Dave Weckl record for 8 months. And then
I'll be Dave Weckl. And then everything will be fine.
That ain't never going to happen. That ain't never going to happen. Matter of fact, if they want Dave Weckl, guess who they call him? Dave Weckl.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
That's it,
That's
man.
for sure.
So.
Hey, it's been great, man. I feel like I could go on forever with you. So I'm gonna give you my last little run here and let you go. But once again, man, what a pleasure. And we got to do it again, because we're scratching the surface of too much good shit. And I'm like, oh my God, we're 2 hours in. I got to let this guy go. But we got to do it again.
It's all good. It's fun, man. It's first of all, it's great to talk to you, man. And
likewise,
we can
dude.
Chop it up without passing each other. You know what I mean?
Dude.
What was the last major thing we got to like kind of spend some time together? What was
New Deco.
New Deco. Which is cool, man. I learned
so
so much from you that show, man.
Oh, please.
I really did. I'm not hyping
from
you, bro.
man.
Come on, man. I told you I don't hype people. I learned a lot. I just watched how you were able to just kind of, move along with the conductor and everything, because I had never done that.
Yeah.
I had never done that. Although I was in school and everything, I never really played with like an orchestra.
Yeah.
And it's a specific thing, man. It's a thing.
It's hard, man.
Yeah.
And you killed it. Hey, man, likewise. Man. I mean, and it's like you said, like, those are those kind of opportunities. It's like, the touch and the time and just dynamics, and then the reading. It's like, it's a whole, because then you're like trying to focus on the listening, and that's a whole other, we could dive if it's like the chart, and then the charts may not be totally together, and then when you're
adjusting to the director and all that stuff, you know what I mean?
Oh my God. Nothing like getting lost in a sea of slashes for 600 bars just so you can play bum bum on bar 90.
Oh my goodness, bro. Yeah, that's what I said. I learned a lot, man. It was fun. It was fun to do that with you. But yeah, man, I'm glad we were able to kind of chop it up and really talk. Hopefully we can do some playing together, man. Some double drum stuff.
That would be beautiful.
That'd
That
be
would be
cool,
beautiful.
man. I might show up on the twin.
Please,
one day.
dude. That would be sick. We'll set
Yo,
that
let
up,
me know.
dude.
I'm
Let's
with
set
it.
that up. That would be
Yeah, I'm
serious.
not just saying that. Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be fun as hell, man.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
So before I let you go, okay, top 5 records,
Top 5 records.
all genres.
All genres. Ty Tribbett Life album is one of my all-time favorites. Clifford Brown, Max Roach. I think it's just titled Clifford Brown and Max Roach. 1955 or 54, something like that. Parisian Thoroughfare is like one of my favorite
I was just about to
songs.
say it.
Oh,
I
that
was
solo.
just about to say it.
And it wasn't even Max's solo. It was Clifford Brown's solo that just changed my life. The moment I heard his solo, I was just like, wow, that was amazing. That album, that's 2. John P. Key, Not Guilty album. Calvin Rogers playing drums. He's incredible.
He's pretty good.
Whew. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Dave Weckl. Man, I always mess the name of this album up. It's a live
Synergy?
record, though.
No.
Is it Synergy? No, what's a live record?
I know what you're talking about.
It's a live record, but him and Tom Kennedy, oh, man.
Yeah.
I would never forget just listening to that album in the car. It was just, it changed my life. This is an album that's like, I actually, where am I at? 3 or 4? 4, I think.
4.
One album, I got tons more, but I'll name this album because this was an album that I really got to get into Vinnie Colaiuta a little bit. And it was this guy's a random album. This guy named Randy Wallman. And Vinny, it sounds like Vinny came in and sight read the album after everybody played it. Dude, it's like the most amazing playing I've ever heard. And
What record is this?
Randy Wallman. Maybe I think it's Randy Wallman, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got like my favorite things on there. But the way Vinny plays this album is just, and he's so off the cuff, bro. It's like you could tell he's just being influenced by the phrasing that's happening in the music, and he's just going off the cuff. That was a moment that was really like pivotal for me too, in terms of just playing off the moment. You know what I mean? So that's 5. That's not 5, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just pick 5, but I got tons more.
That's amazing,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that one out, bro.
Yeah, you have to, bro. Just kill him. Amazing.
Oh yeah. Appreciate you, Dave.
I love, bro.
Until next time, bro.